Welcome back. This series is going to be on deer hunting, and this show is going to be basically talking about October and what you'll see with the deer movement. Please subscribe. Like I've been saying, I'm only a few subscribers short of our goal this year.
You got the Red Arrow shirt.
All right. Yeah, got the Red Arrow shirt.
Hey, a shout out to Kip Campbell. I believe he's a Virginia boy.
Yes, sir.
I think I got his name right. So, hey, we need to.
And I told you in my email reply back with your little note that said, take a picture of me wearing it. I said I was going to be on one of my shows. Here it is.
There you
And the
go.
sticker's on my back window.
Kip Campbell.
All right.
I believe that's his name.
I know it's Kip.
Hey, welcome to Two Guys in the
Hey,
Outdoors.
that was my pick.
Oh no, I did it first.
All right.
It's been a
You got
while.
it.
So Bob, what you do in the outdoors?
Shoot, since we've talked last, I've been hunting a few times, bow hunting for deer. Actually got one a week ago this past Monday.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
I don't know about that. You're
I
holding
kept it
out on
quiet. It was just a small one,
That's okay.
but it was meat in the freezer. But I shot it at 5:30, and I shot it a little bit farther back than I wanted to. And I'll tell you what I found later. But it ran for maybe 150 yards, maybe up a hill, and just bled out.
Yeah.
So found it. Let's see. I shot it at 5:30. Got to it about 7. Was all done with everything. And had it. I've got it in game bags and a trash bag in my freezer right now.
Very good.
But I had that done by 5:30.
All right.
No, 10:30 at night.
Okay.
So 5 hours for about 30 seconds worth of fun. But the tracking was fun. And we'll get to the tracking stuff later on.
We'll do a blood trailing tracking episode, which is very, very important.
But it was the second one that I've done this year so far, and it was a bunch of blood and then droplets, and you would be ready to like, oh my goodness, I can't find it. And all of a sudden, one little like eraser tip size piece of blood, and oh, there it is, and you find it. You're off to the directions again. So that was exciting. I actually did like that. I helped Mike with his, and that was probably about at least a 5-hour track job. And we didn't think we were going to get it. But we did the proper thing. We called the private landowner and asked him for permission to go on his land like you're supposed to. And he helped us. He helped us find the deer. He helped us gut the deer. He helped us do everything. And it actually took us back to our trucks too. So
wow, that's awesome.
When you're nice to your neighbors and you let them know,
they'll be nice to you.
Yeah. So it's been an exciting few weeks for me.
Good deal. Hey, when it's hunting season, it's always exciting. What we're not alluding to is hunting is work.
It's a lot of work. Well,
but it's a very satisfying work. Maybe we'll do a show on that sometime. But yeah, hunting is work.
I was playing tuckered out by the time I was done both days.
But very rewarding.
Like a friend of ours, Frank, he says it all the time in the classes. You have 30 seconds worth of pure enjoyment, pure adrenaline when that shot's going off. And then you got 7 hours worth of work.
Yeah, it is. But you enjoy that.
Oh yeah.
And you learn. So anyway,
what'd you do?
I've been hunting too.
Well, you got the deer for our processing class.
Yeah. So
I won't say how.
I know. I did harvest a deer for one of our processing classes that we do here in the state. If you've never taken a deer processing class here in the state, we highly recommend them. Just with CWD, not able to transport certain parts of an animal. It's a great class to help you know how to skin, quarter, and properly do that to where you can transport that animal from out of a CWD area into a non-CWD area and all that good stuff.
And we do it in such a way, no saws, nothing like that. It's all done to where it, like you said, you can be safe with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
And legal.
And legal.
And legal.
So
yeah, I've been hunting just like you, and hopefully a lot of our viewers are out hunting and enjoying the outdoors as well. I'm gonna tell you, I primarily hunt with a traditional bow. And when I say traditional bow, a bow that I made myself. It's very, very difficult. I've missed one deer with it. I had a bear encounter earlier this week. Was not able to take a ethical shot. So, but I got to experience that, and that's part of it. Is it's not always about the harvest. It's about the experience and the time spent outdoors. So I've had a great time, and the way my season is going so far, I can't wait for the rest of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm the same way. I'm gonna go out possibly tomorrow night, and I'm gonna go out again Saturday. So I'm getting a kick out of it. I started saddle hunting this year, so opening day I was out there in my saddle.
Yeah.
Didn't see anything at all, but I was out there
and learning and experiencing it and just enjoying the outdoors.
So yeah, it's been a great time. So those of you that don't know what seasons are going on right now, just to let you know, we got squirrel. Right.
Small game, yeah.
So small game, small game. There's squirrel and rabbit and all that.
Yep.
And then we have deer for archery. Okay. So the archery season is the only thing that's on right now. So, but it's for deer, turkey, and bear. Okay.
So that all kind of overlaps. That's one of the reasons I'm a archery hunter, is because I'm an opportunist. And so, just like I had a bear encounter this week, if it would have worked out, I would have been able to have the opportunity to harvest that animal.
Yeah.
That's what I love about archery, is because I can harvest a doe, I can harvest a buck, I can harvest a bear, I can harvest a turkey, I can even shoot at a squirrel if I want.
Squirrel, rabbit, whatever.
It's just my favorite time of year.
It's funny that you say that, because if you guys seen that not the last short, but the one before the last one, I actually mentioned that. I said, I think I'm starting to become like Jason, where opportunist. So if there's a bear coming across, a squirrel, whatever, it's gonna, if they're in my sights and I can do an ethical shot, I'm gonna do it.
So anyway, let's talk about deer in general. Okay. So the whitetail deer is primarily a nocturnal animal. Meaning that they'll move at night, feed mostly at night, but they do move daylight time. So your most of the time, your best opportunities are early morning and late evening. Okay, most of the time. All right. So deer are habits of edges. All right, they can be found in all kinds of different terrain. I mean, some of our cities and small towns have a huge population of deer, so they can live about anywhere. But as hunters, what we want to look for are edges. Edges are the edge of fields, where fields meet hardwoods, where hardwoods, which are your oaks and your maples and hickories and locusts and trees like that, where the hardwoods maybe meet pines, right? Deer like to travel and feed and use what we call edges. And I think that's why our cities and towns have a very good and thriving population because there's a lot of edges.
Mm-hmm.
You've got yards versus creek bottoms and areas along roadways that are not accessible or not able to be hunted, things like that. Deer are primarily browsers.
Mm-hmm.
So, they do have a stomach very similar to a cow, but they're not a grazer. They will go out into fields and graze, but they're more browsers. They like honeysuckle, new growth, greenbrier, things like that.
The stuff I call soft green stuff.
Yeah, so that's why they like those edges, because that's where that kind of stuff grows, right? They also love hard mass. We're not going to talk about soft mass because that's early season. September. There's sassafras berries. There are autumnali, huckleberries, which is a wild blueberry. Deer will eat those soft mass things, but we want to focus on what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, depending on the part of the state you're in, they're primarily feeding on acorns and browse, and then they'll hit those power lines, field edges, and they'll do some grazing late evening and throughout the night. So those are their main food sources.
Now that also applies for the areas that you're in, if you're in the agriculture area. So if you got corn and beans and stuff out there, they're going to go along the edges of that too, right? And they may go out into the field, but generally not during the day, maybe early mornings, late at night.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's nocturnal. They don't want to be out there in the open.
Yeah, that's what we call feeding areas.
Yeah.
So deer will tend to travel from bedding to feeding, and then from feeding back to their bedding area.
And there's got to be some water. So if you can find that food source, their bedding, and then their water source,
mm-hmm.
then you've pretty much narrowed where that's happening.
So with me, I tend to try to find food sources. I want to hunt those food sources, or I want to hunt the areas between the food sources and the bedding area. That bedding area, may be for the area that we're in right now, may be a sunny side of a ridge where they can get those thermals in the mornings and the evenings and detect danger. And then they'll move from those bedding areas down into maybe a hardwood flat where the acorns are dropping, or maybe a field edge or a power line or whatever they're feeding on at that particular time.
Now, if you do go scouting, like in the summer, in the warmer months of the year, and you're scouting, you're hiking, you're checking up, if you find bedding that's being used at that time, it's not necessarily the same bedding area that they're going to use later in the season, during the hunting season. Okay, then bedding spots may change
based on food sources.
So that's why it's good to actually find the food sources first, and you can figure, okay, is this going to be an early season food source, late season? You go for acorns, it's more of a late season type of food source.
And that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
So we're into that hard mass food plots, fields, agricultural, anything like that is kind of what they're feeding on right now. So
I forget. I know. Generally speaking, they like acorns, but there's one. Is it the white acorn that they like more?
The white oak. White oak.
Yeah.
The white oak is a sweeter. It's not as acidic as your red oaks and some of your pin oaks and things like that. So if you can find a white oak that's producing, dropping, you're going to find deer there. So that's good. So let's talk about what deer are doing. All right. So I'm going to talk about we're at the very tail end. Like we mentioned earlier, we're getting into prime time.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by prime time is that pre-rut and rut activity. This is where your bucks get dumb. They start moving in the daylight. They start traveling more because they're looking for a doe that's in heat.
So let's talk about that for just a minute. So several of you may have cameras out, and you noticed earlier in the year, especially when the bucks were in velvet and starting to grow out their antlers and everything, they may have been clustered into groups. Okay, and that is normal. Okay, but right about this time, maybe a few weeks back, they started breaking up. Okay, they started getting their own areas, and this is where they'll start fighting for territory. Okay, and so that's part of the reason what makes them kind of weird. They're looking for the girls.
Yep, and that's what's taking place right now.
Yep.
And so yeah, your does will be in groups. You're going to see your bucks in groups, and right now, just like you're talking about, your bucks are going to start to slowly break off. So if you see on your trail cameras or you notice out in the field next to your house, you get this group of 3 or 4 bucks. Well, you're going to soon start to see one buck.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to start to define dominance. So with that, this time of year is a great time to rattle. You can rattle, tickle antlers together. You can use a grunt call, and I'm going to go over some of the calls with you all. This time of year is the most exciting. It's the last week of October and that first week of November. Things really start to happen. You're going to start to see those bucks kind of split up.
Yep.
The does will kind of stay the same right now. Even when they kind of come into estrus, they're going to still have their small groups until those bucks start to push them and separate them from their group. So this time of year is a great time to use I don't hide this at all. I'm a very aggressive hunter. And what that means is I screw up a lot. But I try to make things happen. So I call a lot. I'll tickle antlers. When I say tickle antlers, I'm just going to tickle them together. I'm not bashing them together and
You're not making it sound like it's a fight.
that's right. Because our buck to doe ratio here in Virginia is not like Texas.
Yeah.
Do we have full blown fights? Absolutely.
But they're not as prevalent.
Well, that's right. And that full blown fight is not going to draw in other bucks. It can, but typically in Virginia, our buck to doe ratio is not where it needs to be. So there might be a buck up on the ridge or down in the hollow or up the river bottom that is 100, 200 yards away. And when you tickle those antlers together, you might get his attention and he start come your way.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can rattle those antlers together. I like, that is just a basic grunt. This time of year, so from the beginning of October to now, I'm doing a basic grunt, which is, and I'll wait 15, 20 minutes, and I'm going to do it again. what it is, deer are very social and curious.
Mm-hmm.
So a deer, a doe, a yearling, a young buck might hear that and come into bow range because they're curious and they're social animals.
They're not going to come running. They're going to just kind of meander.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he's talking about tickling them, it kind of simulates when they're starting to knock that belt's already gone, but they're starting just to knock some things around
Well,
in the woods.
we're starting to see some rubs now.
Yeah.
And we'll post a picture of the rub. That's where deer will rub the bark off of a tree, and it's basically it's a territorial thing, and they're leaving their scent behind.
There's a scent gland up there that they're dropping.
Yes, it's how they communicate. They communicate through and scent, because we all know their noses are tremendous, right? So now we're going to move into where we're just about at. The last week of October and that first week of November. So that time, which we're just about there, these bucks are going to start splitting off. So now we can get a little bit more aggressive with our calling. We're still tickling antlers if you want to do that. Bucks are starting to what I call cruise. They're starting to travel more, and you're going to see more daylight activity.
And the first ones you'll see break away from the group, typically, or at least what I've noticed, is the bigger ones. Okay, so that big buck that you've seen with a couple of other small ones, then all of a sudden you see the camera again and you see all the small ones, and that big one's gone, and you only see him at night. That's what's starting to happen.
Mm-hmm. And also, what's going on right now, or will be, is those does that have, let's back up, hit reverse here. You're going to see some does with smaller bucks. And what that is mama does with last year's baby. And last year's baby is a 1.5-year-old buck. He can have spikes, he can have a 4-point, he can even have a small basket rack. And a lot of people mistake that for rut activity or whatever. But what that is a mama doe with its last year's baby. So what's happening is that mama doe is going to run that 1.5-year-old deer off because she knows that she's about to come into heat. And it's a natural way for our deer here in Virginia to not inbreed. So that mama deer is going to run their last year's baby off. And so now you're really going to see these 1.5-year-old deer blundering around trying to find their own new area. That's why you see so many spikes and 4-points and little basket rack bucks harvested within the next couple of weeks, because those deer are traveling and trying to find their new turf out of their mama's territory.
And they're not used to protecting themselves.
Yeah. And so they'll just kind of they'll answer a call and come in because they're trying to find a buddy, trying to find a new area. You're also going to see on your trail cameras deer that you haven't seen all year. Mm-hmm. So you're going to start to see some different bucks show up to your area, and you're going to be like, where did he come from? Yeah, where did he come from? So that's happening now. That's starting to happen now. All right. So with that, I'm going to get a little bit deeper tone. I'm going to go to what's called a buck run. And I'm going to do that same type of calling is every 15, 20 minutes, just a soft. I'm not doing that crazy stuff you see on TV. It's just a curiosity call. Because if you hear deer in the wild, you hear that soft grunt, and it's not 4 or 5 different grunts, and it's not every 2 minutes. You hear just a couple, and that's it. And then 15, 20 minutes later, you might hear it again. That's deer communicating.
So you got to be careful.
You've
Not
got
to overdo it.
most people use calls wrong, right? They watch too much TV. Well, you got to remember, this is Virginia. Our deer population is booming. Our buck to doe ratio is not correct, and so deer react differently. So anyway, so keep it soft, keep it every 15, 20 minutes. You know, I'll see a deer, crossing a ridge way out of bow range, and I'll get his attention. That deer might stop, look my direction. He might continue walking on. You might give him another. He may stop again, or he may just keep on walking, and that's fine. That happens. That just means
Not interested.
not interested. And
Okay.
don't call
To be set in your way.
when they're looking at you or looking your direction, because they will pinpoint you. I mean, to the T. They will walk to your tree if you're in a tree stand. They will walk directly to you. So as they're walking, you want to try to get their attention, because they're walking and making noise, and they hear something, and they stop and they look. You've already got his attention. Don't continue to call. Just wait and see what happens. If that deer turns, start your way, get your bow, get ready, because he's coming. All right. So that's where we're just about at. All right. So hey, keep it simple and go hunting.
Get out in the outdoors and have some fun.
See you next time.